Hello, good morning, and welcome into another episode of Good Morning NASDAQ. I'm your host, Dom, joined by Mr. Huddy over there on the left. Hope you guys are having a great week so far, staying safe out there. Market's been a little slow this week. It's been pretty, what's the word? There's been a lot of runners, a lot of gappers, squeezers over the last few weeks, so going into this week, it appears that that momentum has dried up just a bit. No real big multi-day runners. Um, no big gappers yesterday that did anything of note. And this morning, only one real nice gapper that just started moving here in the last 20 minutes that we'll talk about here in a second. Before we do, I want to thank you guys for being here, part of the Clover community on YouTube. We do ask that you make sure that you are subscribed right here to the channel, that you make sure you give this video a like. We are live every single morning, 8:45 a.m., Monday through Friday, Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern for Wine Wednesday. We post videos every single week, so you're not going to want to miss any of it. If you like the free content, but you want more, we also offer clovertrading.io. You can get in 4-leaf for a 7-day, $7 trial. Get access to everything. We have watch list, chat room, trade recaps, video lessons, webinars, all the shebang. You get access that for a week for $7, and then you can make your decision if you want to stay. All right, we have Raymond, Nemo, Daria, Jasmine, Selene, Joseph, Simon, all up in the chat. Don't be afraid to type in there. Type where you're from. How's your week going? Green or red? Any questions you might have? Similar to yesterday, whenever we don't have a ton of gappers or big percent movers, your questions are the lifeblood of the morning. So we ask that you do post some questions in there, but not all your best questions if you're 4-leaf, because we do have a webinar today with me and Huddy at 11 a.m. How we doing, Huddy?
We're good. We're good. Just looking at the gappers, looking at the things, drawing some lines.
How are
Got
your
some
lines
Starbucks
going?
this morning.
You
Felt
spent
good
your
about that.
you spent your $7 already?
I spent my $7 and I got some points. They have a great point system going on right now. We love it.
Yeah, it's just a lie, just to get you to spend more money.
Hey, it makes my girlfriend happy. We're
Uh,
getting new drinks. We're trying new things. We're over ordering. It's great.
is there really a point to get anything else when you know the peppermint mocha exists?
I mean, yes, because it's only there for so long.
Selene says the webinar archive is gold. Guys, join the fam, the Clover fam. New York City in the building. You already know. New York City. All right, let's get going here with the biggest gapper of the day. 62 of you in there right now, only 23 likes. I don't want to have to ask again in the next 20 minutes. So please, please, please like the video. Give it a thumbs up. All right. The first one that we have is ADTX. Let's head on over to Dilution Tracker, do some due diligence.
Did this one, did this one gap up when we were all in New Hampshire together?
No, this was on 11:30, so last Thursday. Tuesday. It had 11:30 was a Thursday, wasn't it?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I don't know if that maths, but looks like it was a gap and crapper just a week or two ago. 420K float, so pretty small. They're a developing technologies. They are developing technologies specifically focused on improving the health of the immune system through immune monitoring and reprogramming. They're a biotechnology company. They have negative 1.5 months of cash left based on a quarterly cash burn of 5 million. Not doing great in the cash department. We got a couple of S1s. One withdrawn, one is priced at $6. Warrants at 10. What else you seeing here? How do you have note? Let's go to the
Yeah,
news real
so
quick. Let's see the news.
it's interesting. The news is that they are acquiring Evofem Biosciences, creator of Phexi. And I know what Evofem is because we've traded them in the past.
Yeah, I remember this news. The
This was back
contraceptive.
when certain states, I think, banned abortion. Something really bad happened with abortion back last summer. And Evofem had some pill that you could take that was like new to the market and could solve that issue. But it didn't turn out so well. They went from $2 all the way down to 12 cents before delisting to the OTCs and doing some kind of reverse split and still diluting all the way down to 7 cents. So whatever company that they just bought from a share price perspective is not a good company. And they bought it on the cheap.
Yeah, this is the chart on the screen of the company that they are acquiring. I'm guessing that run was back in 2022 and has faded ever since, not even gotten close to those levels. Looks like a couple of reverse splits as well. And ADTX is the company that we are looking into here. Going back on the daily chart, there's a run that top, okay, that 1154, which means this is a reverse split as well. See how recently they did one. One for 40 3 months ago. Okay, let's continue to find some resistance. Not hard to find on this chart. A lot of days that just wick up on small volume. Huddy's referring to this day that topped out here at 530. A couple weeks ago, big one here that topped out at 23. So there's room to run, but also resistance everywhere. Top left to bottom right. Seems like this company is using their stock price to try to shore up some of those cash deficiencies. Only one real big run out of this stock, and everything else has kind of been a doji type of candle that ends up going lower in the coming days and weeks. But we are holding over this prior resistance on bigger volume from 530. Let's take a look at the intraday. That news came out at 8:30, and we've just kind of been making higher lows, percolating up 90% on the day now. And we'll see if it can break 750 and go higher. What are your
Yeah,
thoughts, Mr. Jim?
this is a situation where I wish I was a little bit more uh like versed in fundamental analysis because ADTX has a number of things going against them from my research, which again is just research. What I write. So the first thing is they're like delinquent in terms of like one of the NASDAQ codes. They need 500,000. I think they need a 500K float is what I read. I could be wrong. As always, just fact check me. So I think they need more than the current float that they have to stay listed. And that timeline is expiring soon. Uh, so it makes me like wonder, when you're buying this company EVFM for the money that they're putting up. So they have a 275K float. They're delinquent for one of the rules. They have 1.6 million cash, but they burned 1.6 million cash, and that was of September 30th. So they're essentially broke. Uh, it like from a fundamental perspective, this is not a good company. And the fact that they are not a good company and they're spending, a good amount of money that they don't have, or they're loaning the money to ADTX or to EVFM, the whole deal smells bad right off the bat. You have a broke company lending a terrible company a lot of money.
Well, it's
This doesn't make
also
sense to
it's
me.
also a company that is dealing with the health of the immune system. Buying in the article, it says um, they're gonna accelerate the global non-hormonal birth control market, and it's like that's an interesting twist on what we set out to do over here at ADTX.
Yeah, I mean, so at the end of the day, I care less about really what they're setting out to do. I don't really want to get my emotions. I'm just trying to figure out like, does this acquisition of any sort, like what are they trying to do in order to get compliant with the NASDAQ? Because I feel like there's something hidden here that I just don't quite understand. But from the paper, or like on a paper standpoint, ADTX is in no position to be doing this. And EVFM does not look like a good stock. So it smells bad. It just smells bad. uh,
Yeah, and in the
which
article it says pending successful transaction. It will also mark the establishment of a women's health mission with a Dix platform. So who knows if it even goes through. Um, yeah, funky one here, but with it being such a low float, it's important to understand that they are dangerous in the ways of longs and the ways of shorts. You're looking at a stock that just recently did a 1-for-40 reverse split where, the next giant level of resistance is at 24, which is 4 times away from where we are right now. We have seen stocks like this that even on crappy news, even if the news isn't real, even if the company doesn't have money, that have still gone on pretty crazy moves, and that's always something to keep note of and understand. Um, yeah, I mean, 400, 300, 200, whatever the float is, K, not million. It's small, and I would expect this at the for the first 30 minutes to an hour to be volatile, no matter what. And it's really best that you know what you're trading before you go on and embark on trades like these, because they can be difficult. They can get halty. It can be hard to stick to risk because you're afraid of slippage. In either direction, long or short, it can be easy to get attached to a bias on the short side and overstay your welcome. There are a lot of bad things that can happen with low floats that don't necessarily happen with bigger, thicker stocks that maybe give you a little more time to make your decisions. I know Kyle doesn't short. I don't know if he buys either or doesn't play anything under a 2 mil. But this is 10% of 2 mil. This is small. Are you talking, or is that it for you on that one?
that's it for me on that one. It just smells bad.
He says it smells bad. The next one we got, it looks like C4 Therapeutics, and their ticker symbol is 4Cs. That's pretty dope. Okay.
Good for them.
They did something cool. You gotta, when some thought goes into the ticker symbol, you gotta be appreciative of it. Their name is C4 Therapeutics, and there's 4Cs. There's their ticker symbol. Biotech company, 43 million float. So the opposite of what we just talked about. Now we are looking at a much bigger float. They are focused on harnessing the body's natural regulation of protein levels to develop novel therapeutic candidates to target and destroy disease-causing proteins for the treatment of cancer and other diseases. News today, 2 hours ago, they announced license and research collaboration with Merck to discover and develop degrader antibody conjugates. DACs for all you out there. Gonna go through a few more. They reported earnings a month ago. They had some data presentations 2 months ago. All right, don't see anything too important in the rest of their news. Where am I looking? Boom. 24 months of cash at a quarterly cash burn of 27 million. So their money is floating around. Alarm bells. We got a $200 million ATM.
Yeah, it's an old ATM. It's been there
Yeah,
since I think 2022.
2021.
Yeah, 2021. It hasn't been tapped yet. But the thing that's interesting about CC4 is when you read into that ATM prospectus. Let me get to it. Where did I go? Where did I go? Where did I find it? Sorry, you keep talking, Dom. I'll find it.
Well, I want to listen to it. This isn't the one, is it?
Is this the one with the
Automatic shelf or something? Yeah, here it is.
So I forgot where I read it. I wish I could find it. Oh no, it wasn't for this one. It was for Cadle. Never mind.
It was $46 a share when they did this. Wow. Have the times have changed, and they have not tapped into it once?
Not yet.
It's kind of interesting. What would be a reason, Mr. Financial Fundamental Analysis Expert, that they would just let their stock price go to $1 from the 40s without making any money off of it?
I mean, two reasons that I could pinpoint. A, it's a big ATM, so you need big volume to sell into that, which they haven't really had except for one day, but it didn't really have a ton of range. And then B, it's just mainly like, do they need the cash, right? Like the reason that I'm always looking and trying to grade companies based off their fundamentals is because it tells me how much they can move, what is their incentive in moving it, and you know, how badly do they need the cash. So like on CADL, CADL, which is the other gapper today, they also have an ATM. And if you go into the ATM agreement, I thought this was C4, but it's CADL. Uh, but they've had their ATM for about a year now as well. They haven't tapped into it, but if you read the box that says the offering about the ATM, it specifically says that they're using it to enroll patients into the study that just got FDA approval. Like that's what they're waiting to use the ATM for. So like on something like Cato, I can kind of see why they haven't used it for a year and why they might be using it as soon as possible because now they have, you know, that FDA approval to go forward with that drug. So enrollment sounds like next. Uh, so maybe there's certain milestones that a company is waiting for. Maybe they don't have the cash. Maybe they don't have the liquidity to even sell the ATM. And there's a number of reasons why companies wouldn't necessarily tap their ATM instantaneously.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, going back on the daily chart, not much to really write home about. Big volume day that topped out just short of 4 in the 390s. Not a super volatile stock, which isn't surprising when you have a 43 million float, bigger company. Kind of like the opposite of what we were just talking about, where ADTX might be a little harder to play, a little scary to play based on how low the float is. These bigger floats can be a little more difficult to gauge as well on day one, just because you don't really know what they're capable of. Because as you can see here, even on the big runs out of CCCC, they take 12 to 15 days just to get moving in a normal type move that we'd be looking for in a day or two out of most small caps. So, for that type of reason, I don't really expect much out of this today. It's definitely not something I'd be playing on day one. If I was like gun to my head, had to play day ones, that's when I would go to the low floats because I could expect the most volatile range and expect, a 30 to 50% move in one direction or another with ease. I don't know if you're going to get that here. The stock's only up 56, 55% on the day. With no real history of big moves, so I wouldn't really expect much out of this today for me. There's a couple questions on tickers because I don't really see any other gappers over 50% that are all that intriguing. The gappers this week have just been pretty bleh, and that's okay. I said it yesterday in my Instagram post. Days like this, weeks like this, they make it really easy what you should be focusing on. And sometimes faster markets, or when we have a ton of gappers or a ton of stocks to watch and look at, it can be quite difficult to narrow your focus down because you're so worried about what other people are doing, so worried about what this stock's doing, and you want the entertainment from the low float that's going from 5 to 20, when in reality maybe your A+ setup is sitting somewhere on the side. So these slower markets, it can be a lot easier to identify which plays are actually worth your attention. What were your thoughts on the IONM pop yesterday morning? Fresh, daily, and maybe shorts piled in pre-market?
What's the ticker?
IONM.
I don't really remember it.
I don't even know what that question is. I kind of had this type of, not this type of question, but this type of idea of people trying to like predict where shorts are like stuck or trapped. And I don't really know what the bias of this comment is. Like if they're thinking about bouncing it, if they're bag held from 70 cents and they want to know if it's going to pop. Even if shorts did pile in, I mean, I don't anticipate shorts piling in pre-market to a stock that's up from 40 cents to 60 cents. That's just not something that generally happens with really smart short sellers. But even if they did, they're up on their position by 50%. So I don't really know what the question really means. This is just kind of a nothing move here. Nothing that I would be all that interested in. Just had one morning spike and then faded all day and is now lower today. So I would focus more on daily chart, the pattern. What pattern are you trading? And, going through a little bit of due diligence with the fundamentals. But I've been seeing that a lot lately where it's like shorts. I feel like shorts might be trapping here, or, that's usually something you see in hindsight after some action has taken place, and that usually confirms some sort of thesis. when these stocks are already back down to their lows, no right answer for that ever. You could say catalyst. You could say
there are manipulators, market makers of sorts, and there is retail, right? Buyers and sellers. We kind of already can rule out that there's not a lot of retail trading this 60-cent stock with no volume, no press release, there's no reason to even be watching this, really. It's not really active in terms of small cap. Any big trader is going to have a hard time sizing into this. So like big money isn't here. And so you're left with either chat rooms. So maybe a room got their followers to buy 50 cents and it spiked to 95. Because maybe some people were short in the pre-market. I don't know, weak-handed shorts. It's not like an attractive short by any means. It's hard to imagine. So it just looks like maybe like the chat room got a hold of it or something like that. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I mean, with it being this short-lived of a move from 930 to 948, yeah. Oh, I mean, this is why we tend to focus on multi-day setups, because it's a lot easier to know the why, the how, the what's going on. On the one-and-done movers, very, very difficult to identify why something did or didn't go up or down. We were talking about this yesterday. You could have the worst fundamentals in the world and every reason to dilute, and the stock goes up 100%. Same with, you could have the best news ever, no reason to dilute, and the stock fades all day. There's no real way to know, based off the information we have, why something is happening. It's our job to react to what happens and make decisions for the future.
Pretty gnarly how much volume it traded into that spike.
Yeah, it kind of looks like just some sort of manipulation. Dom, what do you think about ALT for a screen day reversal? No. Not a big enough run, not a volatile mover, not really rangy enough. It set its top over the course of like 3 days versus, normal stocks where we can clearly see, giant move, top gets put in, and then backside ensues. On ALT, it was like the last few days, it was just, you didn't really know if it was going to consolidate and go higher or if it was going to break down. And because the high that it put in was so far away from that consolidation, the fading from here just makes it less ideal. This stock has a huge ATM. I don't know how much they have left, or if they do. They did have a huge ATM, and it's not really like a smallish float that I would be looking to take advantage of. First screen day I really want to take advantage of in the first 30 minutes to an hour of the day. Quick move on. I don't know if ALT is that type of stock. Where do you guys draw the line between your patterns not really showing up and being patient versus adapting and learning how to trade these crazy gappers? I have an answer if you want me to go first, Jim.
Draw the line.
I'll draw the line. For me, it really has to do with, if your patterns are gone or if they're just not there over like a 3-day stretch. Because I look at the last year, and we can kind of relate it to like 2019 when OTCs died for a bit, and again in like 2021. And it went from where we were trading them on a daily and weekly basis to maybe there was one liquid one a month. And that was like a sign that, okay, it's not just the pattern, it's just these are gone. Like they're not showing up in the market anymore, and I have no choice but to move on from them. I still have the skills that I have taken from them to make money if they ever do show up again, but I got to learn something else. When it comes to, these recently, it's like when I look back at 22 and 23, there are pockets of really great opportunity with the patterns that we've been trading for years, and they do show up on a weekly basis. It's just about, again, narrowing your focus and not missing them. It's just different than 2020 and 2021, where you were given 10 multi-day breakouts a week, and so if you missed 5 of them, you still made money on 2 or 3 out of the other 5, and you were able to just be like, okay, really nice. Whereas now you might get 2 or 1 a week, and if you miss that, there's a lot of anger, depression, frustration, regret that you weren't there, you didn't narrow your focus, you had your eyes on something else. So the opportunities are just, there's lower amounts of them right now, and I would say that across everything. And there's just less of all the great patterns. Less multi-day runs that lead to first red days, less big runs that lead to first green days, less stocks holding up and then making new highs for breakouts. But we have seen it happen, and those opportunities have been really nice because that means that the volume is there, the range is there, they're super volatile, they have the eyes, the attention of everyone. So for me, it's like I'm not going to stop trading those patterns or looking for them and focusing on them because they're still here. and until they're completely gone and like the only thing moving in the market is day one gappers, then that's when I'll put all my attention on that. But I'm not going to say I haven't adapted in the way that I have studied them over the last year a lot more and tried to build strategies around it that, me and Huddy work on all the time that I think he's starting to trade, and he talks about that over in Clover. Yeah, so it's kind of like the line for me is if it's really completely gone, and then, no matter what, if all your patterns are there and the market's churning, you should still be studying and learning other stuff with the intention that if stuff does slow down, I have another avenue to profit in the market.
I lost the question while you were talking.
Do you ever pay attention?
What was the question?
Where do you draw the line between your patterns not really showing up and being patient versus adapting and learning how to trade these crappy gappers?
I mean, it's like just that's an appetite thing, right? It's like, do you want to uncover a strategy that has a pretty high frequency, like it happens a lot, so a lot of room for error? And do you want to uncover and go into the data? And I would definitely approach it with a data mindset when it comes to gappers. But it's really just an appetite of like really wanting to go after it or not. I mean, there are some traders who don't ever do the multi-day setups and only focus on the day one gappers. And they'd be kind of asking you the same question. At what point would I stop doing the gappers and go after the multi-days? It really just depends on the appetite, right? Or you could say the same thing with long versus short, right? Like I used to talk to Roland all the time, and I was like, bro, why don't you short these first red days with me? And he would be like, well, bro, why don't you, buy these first green days with me? So, and it just comes down to appetite. It just comes down to like where do you really find edge? Where do you really have a concrete understanding of if XYZ happens, then I can predict, the next letter in the sequence. So it's your line to draw, right? Like Dom and I don't sit here discussing the gappers because we necessarily trade them. We're just here to talk to you guys about the gappers and what's moving in the markets and the things that we notice from them. And maybe it comes back and pays dividends for us when we, see the multi-day setup happen days later and we have all this information and research about the fundamentals and the press release and what's really going on with the ticker. So that's like the main purpose of going over the gappers. It's not like so that me and Dom are like going to go trade them right at market open. But I think the answer is really just based off appetite, right? You need to find strategies that have a high frequency, a high win rate, good risk reward metrics. And if you don't have that, then you have to, look under another rock. Doesn't have to be day one gappers, but, you got to draw the line somewhere for yourself.
Draw that line. Yeah, it really is personal because, I feel like for every year in the 7 or 8 years that I've been trading, you could have just traded, multi-day breakouts, first green days and first red days. And you're going to have markets where you're trading actively every day, all day. And you're also going to have markets where you only trade 2 or 3 days out of the week. And I really wish I had done that in hindsight, just because all this other stuff, all this other noise that I tried to attempt ended up being very volatile, not wasting time, but very stressful. The only thing that really ended up working was the China pumps for me when I expanded. But it really just has to do with, can you sit back and be patient for your setups? Because no matter what your setup is, there's going to be lulls that happen, in terms of, a week or two that goes by without a trade, or a month and you don't see any really good opportunities. And if you have the appetite to be able to sit back and wait for the next good one, then that's probably the best move. If you're someone that needs to trade all the time, then maybe it's just continue to go and adapt to what's working right now. But that is also a really, really difficult skill to have, especially in small caps. But all right, everyone, that's going to do it for this morning on Tuesday, the 12th of December. We'll be back tomorrow morning, 8:45 a.m. for Free Wednesday, where all of us will be here. Me, Huddy, Kyle, I don't know, Jack was sick, going over our watch list that we normally save for just Clovers. But tomorrow morning, we'll be going over it right here on the YouTube channel. And we'll also have Wine Wednesday tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern. If you want to get in the room, top link in the description, $7 7-day trial. You can get access to today's webinar, me and Huddy, at 11 a.m. So please bring your questions if you get in there. And we will see you guys first thing tomorrow morning. Stay safe, have fun, and